My name is Eugene Peterson. I'm the
Recording
chair
in
of the
progress.
Anne Arundel County Human Relations Commission. Apologize for some of the glitches here. Most of them your system well today. I want to welcome everybody and say that the Anne Arundel County Human Relations Commission is charged with were originally primarily charged with addressing housing discrimination. There was a statute passed, I think, in 2019 or 2020. They gave us the ability to look into complaints as if they were lodged on our web page on the county website with a complaint form that's in both English and several other languages. And then we have the ability to investigate these complaints, these allegations, and decide whether or not to try to have a hearing. We have subpoena power, and we also have the power to sanction and fine folks. In the last legislative session, we were given additional responsibilities over public accommodations discrimination. That would be places like movie theaters, restaurants, etc. And we can, again, we'll have, and we're working with the Office of Law to get the forms on our webpage so that people can instigate complaints and allegations of discrimination, complaints with allegations of discrimination. And we have a responsibility to look into them. We also have additional responsibility for addressing employment discrimination. And the same would apply as with discrimination in public places, but the county employees are excluded from any kind of review by us. That's still done by the county. But again, we have a charge with looking at employment discrimination. We also have a larger charge to, as both the county executive and the county council have said, to make Anne Arundel County the best place for all, which means to address allegations of discrimination, statistical information that we get from police data and others of potential hate crimes or hate bias incidents. And we then would take appropriate action, whether it be bringing the communities together, working with those that are being charged with hate crimes, working with the authorities and the victims that from any hate crimes that have been legally charged through the state statute for hate crimes, which is kind of a little bit more limited than kind of some of the data that's collected by our fine police partners in the county police department. Having said all that, I wanted to start out with the agenda, which would be to have a roll call of our commissioners. So I'll call out those that I see, and if I miss anybody, please tell me. Commissioner Michaels?
Present.
Commissioner Daydoni?
Present.
Commissioner Ferris?
Present.
Any other commissioners available at this time that I haven't called?
Commissioner Sorrow, present.
Okay, Commissioner Sorrow, present. Okay. I think that gives us a quorum so we can conduct business.
Is our
So,
total number of voting commissioners?
pardon?
What is our total number of voting commissioners?
10.
We are at 5. By Robert's Rules of Order, which I was reviewing on this topic for another purpose within the last few months. We're supposed to have more than half. That is a genuine majority. With 10 voting members and 5 present, we are exactly at half.
Exactly at half. Okay, so we won't be able to take any actions at this point in time until we get another member. Okay, first thing on the agenda.
Did, sorry, Chairman Peterson, did any
Yes.
of the other commissioners submit to you that they were going to be absent today?
No, not that I didn't see it in my email, but
All right,
I'll double check.
okay. Thank you.
And I'll do that after we've finished our meeting. First item that we have on the agenda is the election of a recording secretary. And the reason I put that on the agenda was, and correct me if I'm wrong, Director Smith, but by statute, we're required to have a recording secretary. Is that not correct?
It is.
So I've asked several times for volunteers. Although our meetings are recorded and people can get to them that way, we're not in compliance with the law at this point in time. So is anybody that's on the call willing to entertain being the recording secretary, which means that you would have to record all votes. You'd have to record those that attend the meeting and just put a very brief description, and I say brief, of any activities that go on during the meeting. And I think we've talked about this before.
I am considering it and would like to ask for some clarification. Is there any regulation at the county level against using the AI features within Zoom to get a meeting summary?
I am not aware of a prohibition on doing that.
And I am quite familiar with making action minutes, which actually don't, or at least from the places I've read, require a summary of what was discussed, only attendance, time, and votes. I am willing to perform that function because I recognize we need that role fulfilled. It becomes easier, particularly if we want to do some sort of summary, if we have the AI assistant on, and that generates a summary statement.
Am I able at this time to make a motion that Mary Didone, or is this just a volunteer kind of they accept or not accept?
I think you have to elect, but we don't have quorum to elect.
Yeah, we don't have a quorum, so we
Right.
can't.
I hereby volunteer to act as
All
the
right.
recording
Mary has
secretary for
volunteered. Thank you,
action
Mary.
minutes for tonight until we can take a vote and proper election with a quorum present.
Fantastic. Thank you. Okay, at this point in time, I would like to introduce our invited, but as I talked with her the other day, she told me she would be here. Delegate Sandy Bartlett, and she will address the fair housing testing legislation, what happened last time, what obstacles, potential obstacles are there in terms of its passage. And I believe she also will say something about the other legislation that Commissioner Sorrow brought to our attention that we're interested in, which is the prohibition about putting people's belongings on the street without adequate notice. So if we could have Delegate Bartlett, we'll turn it over to you.
Great. Thank you, Eugene. Thank you, commissioners, for having me tonight. Can everybody hear me okay? Okay, great. So like Eugene, Commissioner Peterson said, I want to talk to you about last year's bill that I put in, House Bill 392. And in the Senate chamber, it was Senate Bill 107. This was a fair housing testing bill. So it would have allowed individuals who were fair housing testers to go in to, if they were in a housing facility, they would be allowed to record the audio for any thing that was going on with respect to the discrimination. As it stands now, there are 11, well, let me go back just a step. So as it stands now in the state of Maryland, we have what is called two-party consent. I'm just going to give you a quick overview because I know a lot of you all already know this. I just want to give a quick, to refresh everybody's memory. We have two-party consent, meaning that we require permission or at least the consent of individuals before we are allowed to record them. There is some case law that states that if you are out and about, there is no expectation of privacy, so therefore you can record without having to get someone's permission. Out and about meaning like, on the street or something like that. But one has an expectation of privacy in your home. So there is no argument to support or to override the expectation of privacy in a home that you either own or home that you're showing or something of that sort. So that is a huge hurdle because, as you know, in the United States, expectation of privacy is a large right. It is not written in the Constitution per se, but the Supreme Court has interpreted the law to state that there is an expectation of privacy. So with that said, the state of Maryland does have two-party consent. And currently in the state of Maryland, it is a felony to record a conversation without the other person's consent. So that would be a telephone conversation where even if you are not present, it would be the same thing in some degree with the Zoom meetings. It's just no recording without the other person's consent. Now, there is arguably implied consent when that little thing comes up that just a minute ago when Commissioner Peterson was talking and it said the conversation, this meeting is being recorded. The implied consent is that we all stayed on the meeting. Had one of us left, then one and said, I don't want to be recorded, they would be in their right to say, I don't want to be recorded. So there is implied consent that is all right, that is acceptable. So currently it's a felony if you record without the consent. And a felony is unfortunately a pretty harsh penalty for recording. Unfortunately, we have found that this applies even if your civil rights are being violated, even if you are a victim of a crime. So in the state of Maryland, we've taken it, arguably we've taken it too far because we do not have any exceptions. The only exception of recording without consent would be the police body worn cameras. But we do not have it with respect to if you are a victim of a crime, or if you are are witnessing a crime, or if you are having some form of violation of your civil rights, such as housing discrimination. So we went in and we argued that the issue of housing discrimination was so strong and goes all the way back to the the recording of someone who is discriminating kind of goes all the way back to the original intent of the housing discrimination, the Fair Housing Act. Because the whole point is so that people would not be discriminated. And now here we are in this day and time when we have great an evidence documenter of our cell phones, and we're not even allowed to use it. Someone is assaulting you, and you're not allowed to use it. Sexual assault, anything, you're not allowed to use it without first showing that you've committed a felony and making yourself available for and possibly facing prosecution. So currently, nationally, there are 11 states that are in the same position as Maryland. I'll just read them off to you really quickly. California, Delaware, Florida, Illinois, Massachusetts, Montana, Nevada, New Hampshire, Pennsylvania, and Washington. And so you see that it's kind of all across the board. It's not just red states, it's not just blue states, but it is a problem because the majority, because there's only 11 states, the majority of states have decided it is something that they should allow. We should only have one party consent, and that one party can be the person who is recording. So this is the conundrum. This is a huge legal, well, put it this way, Maryland is treating it as a huge legal problem, a legal conundrum, or a legal problem that needs a solution. So with that said, we, the state of Maryland, the General Assembly, did not pass House Bill 392 this year because we have a bunch of lawyers on Judiciary Committee. We have a bunch of lawyers on JPR, on the Senate Judicial Proceedings Committee, and they know about the right of privacy. They already have this background. It's, this doctrine is ingrained in them, and they couldn't come up with a solution to balance out one's right to privacy and one's right against discrimination. However, I have been talking to our chair, Delegate Luke Clippinger. We've talked about this pretty extensively. We will continue to discuss it. So there's been a couple of solutions that have been offered because everybody knows that this is a problem. This is not something, like I said, everybody has a cell phone. It's kind of naive to think that people are not recording. And it's even, it's a disservice to individuals for them to have the recording and not be able to introduce it into evidence in a case. So with that said, there has been discussion of having the Rules Committee for the judiciary create rules, and they can enact those faster than our process with the legislature to get rid of the two-party consent, in the sense of saying that it is admissible in court. So it would still be, because we'd have to do this part, it would still be a felony. However, if you could prove that this evidence is so compelling or probative that we need to include it in the hearing, then that evidence could be submitted. So that's one route. And the Rules Committee is meeting. In fact, they're having a meeting tomorrow. So they're meeting, they will hopefully decide whether or not they want to take this issue up. It is a big issue, meaning that it has many facets. With respect to the Maryland legislature, I think what we need to do is to continue to educate people and to continue to be proponents of the one-party consent, because obviously, like I said, there's been, what did I say? There's been 11 states, there's only 11 states left that still require a two-party consent. And I think that what we need to do is just continue to be persistent, continue to put the bill in keeping in mind that the way our chairs, the chair of judiciary and chair of judicial proceedings has approached this is it's going to be an all or nothing approach. Either we admit it or we don't. Either we become a two-party consent state or we don't. And that's been part of the hurdle, because in my opinion, I would have been fine with allowing at least the evidence to be admitted. But they're thinking, well, we need to actually get us as a state to a non two-party state, to a one-party state. Now, the problem with that goes, now what we're saying, and I won't get into all the legal argument of it, but now what they're thinking is, if we get rid of two-party consent, are we saying, for instance, let's say if we were in person right now, we were having an in-person meeting, and let's say I pulled out Commissioner Peterson and Commissioner Dodoni, and I said, come here for a second, I want to talk to you guys for a second. And I pull them aside outside of the big meeting room, and I pull them aside to the small meeting room. If we get rid of two-party consent, then that would allow either one of them or myself to record the conversation, even though my actions show that I wanted this to be a private conversation. I wanted it to be a private conversation because I pulled you all out of the room. Or let's say, maybe I didn't because I had both of you there, but okay, let's say I just had one of you. And I said, come here for a second, I want to tell you about something. Or let's say I told you something personal about my health. And I said, I just want to tell you, this is what's happening with my health. What the argument becomes, would we allow that to be recorded? And yes, we would. That's what they're saying. They're saying that even that type of conversation would be allowed to be recorded. And then I could find myself, just using myself here, on the 6 o'clock news stating, my health. And it could be something that normally would be a private conversation. But now by allowing two-party consent, I've let, Commissioner Peterson pretty much send that off to the news, and there's nothing, I wouldn't have much recourse for it. So that's the whole conversation that we had this legislative session on this bill. And I'm giving you all of that because I wanted you to understand why the legislature is not unsympathetic to housing discrimination, but what they are doing is thinking, well, we need to deal with the entire issue. And unfortunately, and fortunately, I've said this before, unfortunately and fortunately, government does not move fast, but sometimes we all know that government should not move fast, and it doesn't, because we want to hear from everyone. We want to be everybody to have input, because government is supposed to be the work of the people and not just the work of a few. So with that said, I am all fine with putting the bill in again. I'm fine with continuing the work that I'm doing with the chair and the chair of JPR. I am fine, and I know Senator Sidnor, Charles Sidnor, he and I work together, and we work together well. We will continue to work on it. The bill did not come without some opposition. We did have opposition, and if anybody wants to know who opposed, I'll be more than happy to give you that list. Mostly the opposition, as you can imagine, was from the multi-housing association, or the any multi-housing group. They were opposed to it. And I met with them. I talked to them because I do meet with opposition. I don't just meet with proponents. I always meet with opposition when we have a bill that may have some controversy to it. So that's my kind of status or background report as to what happened this past legislative session. I don't have much to add. Commissioner Peterson, you mentioned the bill with respect to evictions. I don't have much to add there because that was not heard in my committee, so I don't have the background. But if Commissioner Saros has the bill number, I'll be more than happy to study it. I was trying to find it when you and I were on the phone the other day, and I couldn't find it. So I do remember it coming around, and if you recall, I thought it had passed because I remember voting for it. So maybe it passed the House and not the Senate. I don't remember, but if Commissioner Saros has that background, has that information, then I can, I can add to it.
Sure. Commissioner Sorrow, could you say something about that bill?
Yeah, sure. And I think I'll confirm, but I think it was House Bill 767. And it started out as what was called the Tenant Possessions Recovery Act, because the tenant's possessions as part of the bill could have been recovered. There would have been both a notice period in advance of an eviction date, a requirement for notice of the eviction date, and then a reclamation period after the actual eviction when the tenants could recover their property. And that second piece was stripped off altogether. So all it ended up being was a notice period of 6 days, which really doesn't make much of a change in Anne Arundel County because our sheriffs, as a matter of policy, not law, tend to give at least a week's notice. So the bill does allow counties to extend the notice period up to 14 days. And there is already discussion going on at the county level, at the county council level for doing that, and also for considering the addition of a reclamation period through county ordinance rather than state law. But the reclamation part got stripped out. So I'm sure you did vote for it.
I see it now. Yeah.
Yeah, a very pared down bill by the time it actually got through the legislature.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I see it now. Thank you. I was looking at it while you were talking.
Yeah.
And I remember it now, and I remember the floor debate now.
Yeah.
Mhm.
May I ask a question about the two-party consent? At the Maryland State Bar Association annual meeting a couple weeks ago, Delegate Clippinger mentioned that there was going to be a work group formed to talk about the two-party consent rule, because as he said, because there's all kinds of exceptions that people want to make, so we're going to put together a work study group. Do you know anything about that and who's going to be on it?
I don't know yet. He hasn't started. I don't think he's started it yet. I'm pretty sure he hasn't. I hope that he would include me in that. I can be pretty pesty with him if I'm not included. And then here's the other thing. We have the public the Open Meetings Act that we have to abide by anyway. So the work group would probably be public. So even if I'm not on it, I can always watch it and I can give my input that way. But I will follow up and find out when the work group is happening. Because like I said, we pretty much talk about this almost every time we see each other, and we see each other a lot. So it definitely comes up quite often.
Great. Thank you for your advocacy on this.
Oh, yes. And there was one thing that you were saying that I wish I could remember. It was something when you were talking about House Bill 767. that we also need you all to weigh in on that came through. And of course, I can't remember it now, but I will remember it probably before we finish up, and I'll write it down so I don't forget. Something that I need your help on, you all's help on. Okay.
All right. Any other commissioners want to chime in at this point in time, since we have Delegate Bartlett here?
Yes.
Oh, Commissioner Michaels, yes.
Good evening, Delegate Bartlett. We don't need to go through the whole thing, but I do have a clarification for my own head. The bill is to change a two-party recording agreement. Both parties have to agree for a recording. Is that correct?
It's not changing it, but yeah, it would no longer make both parties agree
Okay.
if the bill passed, right?
Okay. So, in the case of a situation where there's a victim and the victim can record it so that they have evidence that let's say an abuse took place, that's a good thing, because then, right. If there is an abuser, again, they could record it on their own without the knowledge of the victim, and as long as the court, if there's a case or something, doesn't know, that will not help. If the abuser does the recording, whether the victim knows about it or not, is there some kind of protection that recording does not have to be admitted in court then? You're like,
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out, I for some reason, my intuition tells me that if you remove the vote of a second person to do a recording, there's going to be abuse of that, a big abuse of that, because now only one person needs to make the decision. And I just think there's a lot of bad players out there that would take advantage of that. But with the two, it makes it harder for an abuser to be able to record without being charged with a felony. Right.
And that's part of the legal conundrum. I mean, you've hit right on it. The problem is that we've got to strike, our laws should strike a balance, and they're not supposed to unfairly lean one way or the other. They're supposed to be good public policy. So the public policy states, based on what you're saying, Commissioner Michaels, yes, a person who is being accused, if they could, for their defense, submit evidence of a recording, then yes, they should be allowed to do that. Mm-hmm. If a victim has something to show, then the state should be allowed to do that. So that's the Pandora's box that we're opening if we remove two-party consent entirely. However, other states have done it, and we can look at the balance of that they struck and how that they do it, and did they put parameters around it? The problem becomes, because we have cell phones now and we have, you can easily record. The problem becomes, once you open it, it's very hard to put the genie back in, because of the fact that we do have technology readily available that would allow anyone to record at, in any way. Not only that, we also have AI, which can manipulate a recording. So it is more than, that's why this discussion is so intense. And so this discussion is not just a simple, just get rid of two-party consent. Yeah.
Well, and then I was fine where we were at until you brought up technology again. And now, my thought is, and how do I then, how do I sue a company who is recording information that I'm totally unaware of, but I find out that they have been doing this because having the two-party agreement, me and you are a technology company that chooses to record because we, without going there, without saying conspiracy, I mean, I have a feeling there's corporations and companies and governments that are doing recording without my knowledge.
Right.
And it makes it sound better if I have the power of two, meaning I had to agree that they were okay to record. That's powerful. If I get removed as a vote to that, they can do it without my knowledge and use it against me for whatever purpose. So
Exactly.
I agree with you though. If there's only 11 states, of course, California is quite a big state and they're two-party, and we have a good population. I believe, what do I believe? Let's go. It's coming. Wait, it's coming. I believe that you find the state that has the best template, that has worked the best.
Mm-hmm.
Protect victims. That's my concern, that there are victims that are being abused by that, removing that two-party. That's it. I got it. It came through. Okay.
Okay. Anybody else have any? Because I have a couple of.
There was a question in the there's a couple of questions in the
Okay.
chat. Do you want me to go
Yes.
ahead and answer those?
Yes, please.
Okay. So I saw originally a question about, let me go back there. Is there a clause that allows for the verbalization of a party that their expectation that the conversation will not be recorded? There's no clause, but yes, 100%. If anyone does not want, they can say, I do not want you to record this. And once you've done that in a two-party consent, it is there. You put it out there. You can also, so in the bill, I guess if you're asking in the bill, is there a clause that says that? No, but that's something to think about. That's something to think about. It's something that we could put in there, and it might make some people feel more comfortable that they could say that. The only problem with it is bad actors tend to use the law and to their advantage and can manipulate the law. So if you are a person who is known, if you are a person who discriminates in a housing community, housing world, and you say, no, I don't want you to record me. No, I don't want you to record me. The problem is now we're back where we started. So no, we didn't put that in there. It is, excuse me, it's something that the work group could talk about, whether or not there needs to be something like that. Let's see what else we've got here. There was one. Okay, I think that was it as far as questions.
Oh, okay. I thought I saw something that asked about the carve-out issue. Could you address that?
Sure, it was more of a discussion, so I didn't take it as a question, but Commissioner Sorrow said the Fair Housing Bill would be a carve-out from the two-party consent, which is what we've been talking about, and the federal wiretapping law is a one-party consent.
Yes.
Yeah, so that part, I agree with her on that, and I have a really good little discussion on this that I will share with you. It's about 14 pages, but it goes over all of the states and how they, just a blurb on each of the states. So I'm going to put this in it's a PDF. I'm going to put this in the chat. And this was updated in 2022. So it may even be, there may be more states that have come on board by now, but there is the conversation there that a law firm put out.
Great. One other question I have is, I believe Maryland is one of the states, and there are a few of them that have super majorities of one party in both houses, in both the House and the Senate. So my question is, I know you and your chair talked to Speaker Jones and President Ferguson. Where are they on this issue? Because they have the power. I won't say to get it passed, but they have a lot of power.
Yep, they do. Now, unfortunately, I wasn't in the room with Speaker Jones or President Ferguson. Keep in mind that we have landlords who are part of that supermajority. You know,
Right.
so it's not just, this is not a partisan issue. I can tell you it is not really a partisan issue. Because keep in mind, we still have the sexual assault arm of this. People want to wholeheartedly want to be able to record if they are a victim. Who doesn't want to be able to record the audio if they are a victim? However, if you're talking about what I just said when I gave you that example, Commissioner Peterson, I said, if you and I go out into the hall and I say, look, I got something I gotta tell you, and you record it, well, nobody's being physically harmed, but I don't want that to be out there, but you would have every right to do it. So it's not a partisan issue. It really is going to come down to the legal arguments that are going to make people feel comfortable that our state can handle if we remove two-party consent, or if we merely have carve-outs that we've taken the time to really and fully think those through. Because it's just not something we can say, okay, this section gets it, but this section doesn't, and this section, we've tried to do that. It's not working. It's not working. So we have to fully review the two-party consent and fully kind of analyze it and see how we can benefit from either removing it or if we end up doing just carve-outs. Now, did I answer your question, Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Okay. Somebody said there is a question in the Q&A.
Right.
Oh, okay, there we go. Okay, so it says that I remember hearing Chairman Smith on the Senate side say at one hearing, perhaps a year or two ago, that we were never going to repeal two-party consent entirely, but his committee and the full Senate ultimately passed Senator Sidnor's Fair Housing Testing carve-out bill. Do you know if Chairman Smith, what his current thinking is on this? I have to say, I do not. I'm not trying to be flippant in that, but I do not. There are times, I will tell you, I have done research on bills where it passed in the Senate, it passed in JPR, didn't pass in Judiciary, came back the next year, passed in Judiciary, didn't pass in JPR. So I really cannot predict where it's going to go. I think that Senator Smith and the Senate had their floor debate the previous year. I think they had their floor debate. They felt like they had hashed the issue out and that they were in a good place. Unfortunately, the House we did not go through that exercise the year before, and I'm talking in 2024. We didn't go through that exercise. We didn't go through the exercise of saying we're going to look at this, we're going to fully analyze, we're going to fully talk about it. Now, if Chairman Smith is still in the position where he does not believe we could ever get to, well, first of all, let me just say this. As legislators, we may say we're never going to do something, but we also are thinkers. We are thinkers that can be persuaded with logical argument. And so with that said, even though he may have said that, I think that he is also a person that can listen to logical argument. And if we can present, especially logical legal argument, I think if we can present that, then there could be possibly a change in his position. And not only that, if the members of his committee, if President Ferguson, if the Senate says, no, we really need to, either get rid of two-party consent or something else that would widen the ability to do these recordings with a logical legal argument, I think that he would, be willing to listen to that and to adhere to that.
Okay. And finally, the senators had their debate. Are you thinking that maybe the House might do the same thing? I mean, if the bill gets passed through the committee and it goes to the floor, you can have that debate. Is there any interest in the House in doing that?
In the House, we tend to, as you mentioned, we have a supermajority. We tend to put things out that we can pass. We tend to put things out that we can pass with some ability to control how long a debate goes on, because we have other bills. We passed 819 bills, I think, this past session. So the presiding officers, at least I can speak for the speaker, it's never her intent that we have a 2 or 3 day argument, although we do sometimes on certain issues. We will be there on, continually working on a particular bill. We have done that, but we cannot do that for a large number of bills, because then, we only get we get less bills through. So with that said, yes, the debate could definitely go on the floor. It depends on what level of appetite the presiding officers have, what level of appetite the members of the General Assembly have, because, are we going to get hit with a lot of amendments? I don't know. Now, I will tell you also, with the history of this bill this past session, this bill did go to the subcommittee. And it did not move very far in the subcommittee. There was an amendment that was offered in the subcommittee, but it was too pro housing and too pro landlord. And so we never did get to a level where it looked like the bill was going to pass without well, I should say we didn't get to the level where we had the full discussion on 2-party consent. I'll just put it that way. Yeah. Because I will tell you honestly, my chair wants to have a discussion on 2-party consent. He definitely wants to have that discussion. So I will find out about the work group, and Commissioner Peterson, I will get back to you on, and if you could share with the commissioners what I find out from Chair Clippinger on the work group, when is it scheduled, that type of thing. And I'll let you know. Okay.
Certainly. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, with that, again, thank you so much, Delegate Bartlett, for your strong interest in this legislation. We thank you for getting the bill introduced. And we thank you for continuing to have a concern about this. And I think, have a better understanding of the high stakes that are at play here in our state, which is still one of 11. But if there are 11 states, I'm sure they have some of these same debates about whether or not to do away with 2-party consent. So look forward to your information that you'll send me, that I'll get to the commissioners. And again, thank you so much. We really appreciate your support for this legislation. And I'll put in a little request that I know Commissioner Sorrow would, is that you could also follow up and be very supportive of that landlord tenant issue, so we can get a state bill that will probably mirror and reflect what Commissioner Sorrow thinks might happen in Anne Arundel County. Right.
Now, yeah. And so, Commissioner Sorrow, let me just ask, if I can ask a quick question on it. This is something that is this going to be introduced on the county level with respect to the evictions and the ability to reclaim?
I do not know for certain. However, the bill itself specifically says that counties may increase the notice period for the eviction and up to 14 days. They can also reduce it from 6, which is what the statute says, to 4, and certainly does not preclude counties from adding a reclamation period on themselves. And that's something that there's been discussion of. I have my own personal legal opinion of whether that is required as part of due process, based on a recent appellate court case at the federal level, the Todman case. I do not think personally, my personal legal opinion is that the 6 days notice of an eviction date is adequate to meet due process as it relates to the property loss, personal property loss of tenants.
Right.
But that's a discussion that they can have at the county level, and counties are certainly not prohibited from tacking on a reclamation period.
Okay. Okay. So maybe if I mean, I think we should do both. I think we should.
Agreed.
Yeah. Okay. I just wanted to mention that we should be working with the county level as well as on the state level. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely
Okay.
agree. And
All right.
anything I can do to help, you know where to find me.
Yes. Well, thank you all for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about this because you all, as we just saw, you all provide information to me as well and help to make any laws that we pass better because we're not experts. I don't want to be an expert in everything. I don't even pretend to be an expert in everything. And I love to get the feedback from people who are narrowly focused on a particular issue so that I can, work on other things as well. So this is super helpful. I've taken copious notes over here and I will, like I said, I'll share that information and thanks for having me. I hope you have me back and I'll be happy to answer any questions and hopefully we'll get things moving.
You'll definitely be on our call list.
All righty. Take
Thank
care.
you so much.
I couldn't remember my question, but I will email you if I do remember what it was. Okay, take care.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Okay, at this point in time, I'd like to turn the meeting over to Commissioner Michaels. And I think with the caveat that since we don't have a working majority at this point in time, you might share with us if you got responses on your request on the straw man and where you think we ought to go with this strategic planning effort. So, Commissioner Michaels.
Thank you, Commissioner Peterson. For the commissioners that are on this call, did you receive the straw poll that was sent out to everybody?
I did. I'm a bit confused what you're asking of us. Are you asking us to prioritize goals of the commission or our strong suits? Because I thought does that make sense?
Okay, Jaden, Commissioner Ferris, were you on the planning committee for the strategic plan in January?
I doubt it.
Okay. So what we did was we talked about having a strategic plan in January for the commission. And there was a lot of discussion. We looked at other states, other counties that had strategic plans for their commission. And it was decided that we possibly wanted to do a SWOT analysis. A SWOT analysis is similar to a straw poll, except it's a little more detailed. It gives the person the ability to say, for example, under the first area, receive, mediate, and adjudicate complaints of discrimination and violation. Is that a strength that we have? Is that a weakness? Is it an opportunity? Or is it a threat? And that way, I would have been able to create a chart which showed where we felt we were weak as a commission where we could put in some strategic planning or pick the 2, 3 strongest or whatever. That fell on deaf ears, and I received not even like a FU. You know what I'm saying? Like nobody even responded. So I sent it out again and still no response. After a meeting with Chairman Peterson, he suggested, and I loved it, a straw poll. And that straw poll is basically say, is this something you feel we should focus on? Yes, no, or I don't want to answer. And then what I'll do is I'll create a data point sheet with how many say yes, how many say no. Is there a particular thing that's showing up more strong or weak? And by doing so, I could extrapolate some information to create for the rest of 2025, maybe one thing for our strategic plan that we maybe need to focus on as an overall commission. Not that these other things aren't important, not that these other things are in our charter that we need to be working on, none of that. It's just that, you know, maybe focus on 1 or 2 areas as we move forward. And then dive back into the strategic planning committee if we can hold that group together and really come up with something like the other human relation commissions have done in other areas. So what I'm asking for is for you to just read for the Human Relations Committee to develop a focus for strategic plan development. And are those things that you agree, disagree, you don't want to answer, and just go down the list and then just return it to me if you're able to do that. And we're asking the whole commission because the committee hasn't, I guess it hasn't solidified the way I thought it would be.
Okay, yeah, I got your emails. I had a busy semester,
All good.
legislative session too, so
Yeah.
I'm responding now. So
Beautiful.
Okay, great.
Yeah, no, I just sent it out the other day. So we figured that we might talk a little bit about it today. And yeah, as long as I have something by maybe the end of next week, I can, you know, do my part. And then from that, I will pull, like I said, some of the stronger points and then get it back to either the full commission or the committee and say, this seems to be, these 2 areas seem to be the areas that we want to maybe focus on for the rest of 2025, because we really only have about 6 meetings. I'm not sure if we're taking a break in July or not. So,
Okay. Commissioner Sorrow.
So thank you so much, Commissioner Michaels, for all your hard work on this. And I did get your email also on Tuesday. My question, and I'm glad that we have an opportunity to talk about it here, is for our yes or no's on these specific topics. Are we answering yes or no that we currently have capacity as a commission, that we believe we have capacity as a commission to do these things, or that we should be, our effort should be directed toward developing that capacity?
I think it's both developing toward it, but also I would say, do you agree that not only should we be doing this, but like, I'm not going to make it super complex. It's like, oh, we should be doing that. Yes.
Okay.
Or we're already doing that, you know, or no, I don't think that's really, I don't really think we should focus on that. No. So
Okay.
right now we're just keeping it as basic as possible.
Okay.
In the SWOT thing, just so that you know, I initially developed the SWOT with a rating system so that when you would put strength, you would put strength with a rating of 1 to 5, weakness with a 1 to 5, opportunity for a 1 to 5. I removed that and I thought, how about we just put an X under S, W, O, or T? We're down to straw poll right now.
Okay.
I'll move this, you know, like if we can accomplish this, I'm going to move it to the next level, then the next level, just to try to get, you know, to that point. And hopefully maybe write a short strategic plan and maybe try to get our subcommittee to vote yes on that,
Mhm.
so that we then can go to the next step. That's
Okay.
my
But
thinking.
sort of aspirational. Should we aspire to do these
Aspire
things? Is
to-
your yes or no? Okay.
Exactly. That's
Got
what that's how I, by the way, that's how I answered it, and Chairman Peterson answered. So,
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
and to be honest with you, I was going to ask a question of the whole commission because because I answered no on something. I went against Chairman Peterson that said yes on something, and I actually have a question about it that maybe Commissioner Sorrow can answer. But first, Commissioner Dadone, your hand's
Commissioner
up.
Dadone.
Yeah.
Just to thank you for the verbal explanation. I now know how to respond, and I appreciate your explanation and the questions that brought it about. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
The question I have for the chairman and anyone who can help me to understand, and I'm sorry because it sort of also brings in a little bit of new business, but the very last question, which was part of Commissioner Sorrow, thank you for sending me the original way back when. If you remember, you sent me the whole, and that's what I used. But one of our commission responsibilities supposedly is to cooperate with federal, state, and local commission agencies, organizations, and groups. And when I went into the training for the Dr. Keith Smith held, I'm sorry, my brain's going dead, but the training, I remember asking the question, and Commissioner Sarwo was there, where I asked the commission, if I view someone from the federal government kidnapping or taking somebody off the street and maybe going against their civil rights, do I have the right to call 911 to come out and help? And the sheriff and one of the lead policemen were there, and they said, well, no, they have some kind of an agreement not to get involved. My question is, do we get involved as a commission now? Is that what that question is? Is that what that question, not question, but that wording, cooperate with federal, state, and local commission agencies and organizations or groups? Or have I made it more general? Is that more general than it needs to be? They're only talking about other human relation commission groups. Do you think that's what that means?
I might be able to help with that.
Okay.
Yes.
So cooperation doesn't necessarily mean like law enforcement cooperation, right? Like cooperating with investigations. It means that I think cooperation in that context means collaboration, working in partnership with groups that either need support from the commission
Gotcha.
or that can partner with the commission to do things that are within its jurisdiction.
All right. I appreciate hearing it that way, because of course, my brain went there. So.
Okay. Any further discussion? Is there any action that Commissioner Michaels you would want me to take? I can share maybe an email that I might send out to everybody that would and we could collaborate on that. It would talk about the importance of this lack of well, the fact that people may have missed, not lack, but people may have missed your emails, and that you really need a response, and you'll be sending something out to them requesting that they respond to what the straw man, is that what? Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
I think
I can do that.
Yeah, I would love if Chairman Peterson, you would just poke it a little bit more. And
yeah,
just
I'll do that.
I just want to be able to do what you requested. Yeah, I just want to do that and be able to respond so that we can keep moving forward as a commission and doing our.
And with that, can you send me a list of those who had volunteered for the strategic planning committee way back when, and then I can
yes, with
some additional
yes.
comments to those folks that we want to have that committee up and running and re-engaged by the beginning of
By
the
the
year.
fall, maybe. Yeah. Yeah, I would love that. And I will reach out to Director Smith to help me a little bit, remind me. I think I have it, but I don't want to say for sure who's on the committee and who's not. So,
Okay. Well, as soon as you get that information,
Yeah.
send it to me.
right.
I'll work on drafting the email that will go out to all the commissioners.
Right. So there's two things. One, I'll work on what the committee is, but in the meantime, you'll just sort of remind everybody to please follow through with the straw poll.
Yes, I'll send out a reminder.
I appreciate that. Thank you, everybody, for listening and for your time.
Okay. At this point in time, we'll go to Director Smith and get your report.
Sure. Well, good evening, everyone. It's good to see you guys. We are heading towards the close of the fiscal year. It's hard to believe it's already June. So happy Juneteenth, which has passed. It's Pride Month. We have a lot going on. We've had some great activities. I don't know if you were able to attend the Juneteenth parade and festival. It was lovely. You probably know that the Pride Parade was rescheduled for October, but our office has been having quite a nice time getting out and about. I wanted to bring to your attention the hate bias incident numbers. You know, we haven't had a report on these numbers in a while. We're now mid-year almost. We haven't quite gotten through the end of June, but thus far, and I'm going to go back because, again, I think that we haven't done this in a while. In January, there were a total of 12 reported incidents. In February, there were 7 reported incidents. In March, there were 11. And then in April, we see 17 incidents. In May, we see 14. And thus far in June, we have 16. So for the year, we have 77 reported incidents. You guys are aware that that does not mean that they have been vetted as, quote, hate crimes. It doesn't mean that all of these incidents are reportable to the state. But these are the numbers that we have thus far. I think we're tracking kind of high, actually. And so when we get through the month of June and do our semi-annual analysis and Arundel stat, well, they've actually been updating our dashboard like real time. They've been doing it month to month now, but we should be able to do a little bit more analysis. In the last, over the last 6 months, Glen Burnie far and away has the most incidents. It's not atypical that Glen Burnie is a hotspot. We know that. But it's definitely, I would say, significantly more than neighboring jurisdictions or neighboring towns. Most of the incidents have been race and ethnicity related, which is, again, not atypical. You guys know that that's kind of how it goes. Next highest is sexual orientation, which is consistent with what we've seen. And the next is national origin. So just wanting to make you aware that that's where we are up to this point in time. Jaden, you have a question?
Can you repeat the numbers?
Sure, absolutely. So for
Or put them in the chat. Whichever.
that's also, I can type them in the chat. I can type them in the chat for you. Yeah, I'll put them in so that you guys have them.
I guess a concern that several commissioners have had and I've had is, where are these happening? Are these in parking lots, shopping centers,
Sure.
public accommodation areas, schools? I mean, we used to get that information.
So we know that a large number of them happen at residences. That's consistent with what's happened in years past. So these are neighbors that are having disputes, or people that are having issues within an apartment complex or in front of their homes. That is the highest number. We have a significant number still at schools. Those are kind of the highest that I would say, the most significant observable trend at this point in time.
Would it be helpful for the commission if we had two presentations? One would be from the police department and the captain, I believe, I forget what her name is, who's oversees this, to say, what do they see? What are they concerned about? Where could we be of assistance in terms of community interaction that we would want to do or happen? And I think Dr. Nikki might be interested in that kind of discussion also, given our grant. The second thing would be the school district, because the problem, having been a school board member, I know that there's a separate system for categorizing these incidents and basically addressing them internally, and probably the majority of them are addressed at the school level and resolved there. And because of privacy concerns, you never find out if the perpetrator was suspended, expelled, et cetera, et cetera. And so I'm wondering if that would be helpful, and would the school district and we could ask Dr. Gillens, I guess, but she's not over that area. We could ask the other person who's over that. Would they be willing to discuss this with us, and what they see as any trends that they see and what they're doing about it?
So I think we can certainly reach out to Captain Smith. You know that historically we have had someone from the PD, whoever's in the role at the time, come in and talk about the numbers. You know, frankly, historically, they have not had a lot of good explanation, right? They see trends, but in terms of causation and looking at factors that are contributing to increases or changes in the numbers, they have not historically had a very detailed analysis as to why some of these things are occurring. Again, we'd be happy to request that she come, and Dr. Nikki can collaborate with the PD for that. They've done it before, and I think that what you're probably going to get is more of a recapitulation of the data, unless you have very specific questions that you want to ask them. In terms of the school system, though, you know, I think this commission has done a lot of work collaborating with the school system on issues of hate bias. Dr. Gillens has been the school system has been a great partner, and Dr. Gillens has been a great representative of the school system. I would like to recommend that the commission endeavor to act on some of the information that it has received, most notably in the most recent Unity Day activity. There are things that have been brought to the commission's attention, I think, in an organized fashion. And I think it's now incumbent upon the commission, respectfully I say this, but it's incumbent upon the commission to make some decisions about what it wants to do with the information, because we could certainly have, you know, Dr. Gillens or, you know, someone from the Office of Safe and Orderly Schools come in to talk about the hate bias data. We get those numbers, they make those, the numbers, the school system makes those numbers available. We know that the numbers are not great. Kids are, you know, saying things a lot of the times that we wish that they weren't saying. The question is, what does this commission envision its role being in terms of intervening? And I think that that's a decision that the commission really needs to consider and come up with a bit of a plan of action. That's my recommendation. That said, I am happy to facilitate a meeting with the PD. You know, I know that they do like to come, and they like to present what they have.
Okay, I see Commissioner Daydoni. So, Commissioner Daydoni. Commissioner
Thank
Daydon.
you. I want to acknowledge again the hate bias forum that was held earlier this year and the wonderful job. I thought it was a wonderful hate bias forum. Thank you. And I know very early on, when the out of county presenters started on that Saturday morning, one of the questions was, what is the highest category of hate bias incident? And Director Smith, you were the one who correctly answered it. And I've been pounding on the side of my head, which may account for my headache, trying to remember what the answer was. I still haven't shaken it out. Can you remind me what the highest category of hate bias is?
Sure, it's race, ethnicity, followed by sexual orientation.
And that's what you just reported again, continuing for it to be. When we say race, ethnicity, does that include a broadly perceived religious affiliation, for example, Muslims and Jews? Or is that a different category?
It's a different category. And I just wanted to say, particularly in this time and in this climate, I have looked at the data to see if there's an uptick in, religious incidents that are motivated by religion or religious affiliation or creed. And there doesn't seem to be a huge change in the numbers. That's actually consistent with what some of our neighboring jurisdictions are reporting too. Everyone's kind of surprised that those numbers, I think there was an expectation that there would be more conflict given what's happening in the world, or more reported conflict. That doesn't mean it's not happening. It just means that we're not seeing it in the reports yet.
Thank you very much for reminding me and for taking it the extra step about interpretation and what we might expect and we're not seeing yet. Thank you.
Commissioner Ferris, do you have a question?
Yeah. What was the number this time last year?
So I do not have that readily. I don't have that at my fingertips. Hang on one second. Or Nikki,
I do
are
have
you
another
able to pull
question.
it from the dash? Well, actually, it wouldn't be in the dashboard.
Last year, 2024, for the entire year, it was just 20. Well, not just, it was 20.
That were reported to the state, right?
Correct.
So
But these numbers, are all of these numbers reported to the state?
no. So
All of
hang
these
on
are
one
not.
second. Hang on one second and I'll see if I can pull it up.
Okay, I do have another question. If
Yes, please go ahead.
I think you answered this, but I missed it. Do these include like the bullying and harassment forms in the school system?
No. So
Or
these
any
are reported
hate
to the
bias
police.
that happens in a school?
So ideally,
Or do they? Okay, yeah, go ahead, and I'll clarify.
I understand your question, and this is one of the things that Dr. Gillens and I have collaborated about. The question is, do these numbers really should be consistent with the forms that are coming out of the schools, right? Like in an ideal world, they should be on par, close to each other, right? Because the mandate that the SROs have, and that the police department, as far as I understand, has given them is that anytime there is an incident, just like they do when they go out to respond to calls, they are supposed to be reporting them. They're supposed to be tracking them and reporting them. And so there are a number of variables there, one of which is, does the school call the SRO when there is an incident? Does the incident rise to the level of the type of incident that the SRO would be involved in, such that they would get the information that there was some either slur used or that somehow there was a bias component to the incident? We don't know the answer to that. Schools have so much going on. that SROs are not involved in every disciplinary issue, and I don't know that it's the school system's position that they should be, right? The SROs are police officers, and so I think that there may be a gap there. The school system would be better suited to talk about that gap, but I don't think that you would find that the numbers are the same. And I don't think that these reports capture what we're giving you today are incidents reported by the police. Every disciplinary incident is not reported to an SRO. I'm willing to guarantee that.
Okay. Cool.
I guess to wrap this discussion up, I'm wondering if, and I always make requests, I'm wondering if Director Smith, you could just give us a brief synopsis. Maybe you already sent this out when we had the meeting with the students, what came up that was most important to them. I know creating safe places was one thing that they were very interested in, and they only came up with one solution, which was the libraries were a safe place. But is there any other things that we could do to encourage better understanding and communication on these issues?
I don't think that the kids really came up with solutions. I think they told us a little bit about what doesn't work with kids and what does work with kids.
That's true. Yeah.
I think they were talking about, in contemplating what types of activities might be effective and might get kids talking to each other. I think they let us know a little bit about the climate in schools. They talked about the fact that there are groups that don't interact with each other, and it's that it's noticeable, right? It's not just like a one-off, right? There are groups of students that just don't interact, and that they're not incentivized. They're only really incentivized to interact by a couple of things. They will do forced fun if the forced fun comes with food. They will do forced fun if the forced fun comes with some sort of an academic bonus, right? Like if there is a credit that's given, or if it can be counted towards some objective that they have to complete. It sounds like kids are interested in consuming materials, but they're not interested in consuming it in the traditional ways, right? So like they're not doing a bunch of reading for pleasure by and large. They'd like to consume information in other ways. And so I think it's really up to the commission to maybe come up with some ideas about how to use that information and support the school system. When we were doing Unity Day, I think that stemmed from, the Unity Day activities stemmed from this idea that there were things that adults could do to support the school system in the time when kids are out of school, right? So that that behavior kind of trickles over into school. And so I don't know that their mandate in talking to us was to come up with solutions, but I think they gave us some context that could be used for the commission to make some recommendations or suggestions, or come up with some ideas and be creative in thinking about it.
Okay.
And if I could just add, you really said it all, Director Smith, and that was that I found not topics that are discussed. Therefore, if the topics are not discussed in the class, or it's not reading or materials that they are required to do for school, it's ignored, in the sense that not that the students want to ignore it. They might want to talk politics or LGBTQ or whatever, but it's not part of the curriculum, and therefore it's sort of ignored sometimes.
I thought that one thing that they raised that perhaps we could help with is, and now I'm blanking on the phrase that they used
Third
for
space.
that third space. What was it?
It's third space.
Third
Yeah.
space. And that really stuck with me as something I don't know how we as the Human Relations Commission could help to maybe increase the availability of these third spaces for them. But that did sound like something, you know, as we were listening to, I was listening for what can we realistically do to help with what they are saying they like or that they need. And that really stood out to me, is they all sort of lit up when they talked about operating in third spaces. And so I don't know, I don't have a solution, but I think that is something that we should explore as, you know, as a possibility for something we could maybe help them to identify or expand access to.
Thank you, Commissioner Sorrow. Director Smith, any other further?
There is a community survey that Dr. Nikki has collaborated with the partnership to put out, or it didn't collaborate with the partnership, I'm sorry. But in any event, there's a community survey that is out. You've probably seen it in a number of venues. Chanel posted it in the chat. The survey closes at the end of the month. And so we are seeking your feedback from the survey. Please continue to circulate it widely. The more responses that we get, obviously, the better. In addition to which, we are still doing community conversations. We have, I think we wrapped up now our, Dr. Nikki, do you want to just open up your mic? Did we wrap up the in-person sessions?
We wrapped up phase one, which is well, not necessarily. We wrapped up phase one. We're planning for phase two, and we're targeting specific populations. We have a session that has been scheduled with the detention center, and we have 2 sessions that have been scheduled with aging and disability, and we're working at more specific populations to meet with as well. We're in conversations with the Office of Multicultural Affairs, and those start in August.
Did we talk about the virtual session, the date for the virtual session?
The virtual session is on, give me 1 second, sorry, July 10th. It's in the chat as well.
Thank you. So if for folks who couldn't make it to an in-person session, we'll be having a virtual session. The registration is capped so that you know, to facilitate good, healthy, productive discussion. But please feel free to register for the virtual session.
Okay, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I missed that. I was looking at the wrap up civil rights, Maryland, and I missed the virtual. So this virtual will be what I missed when I was away, Dr. Nikki.
No. This is not the multidisciplinary advisory team.
Okay, thank you.
This is community and conversations.
All right. Can I also ask because you would like a wide distribution of the survey, Director Smith and Dr. Nikki, I can send that via benevolence because that reaches around 110 people. Okay. If you need some feedback from community, we're talking frontline people.
I think that's great.
I'll send it to you again. You would have gotten it in email at least 3 times.
I already have
but
it.
I'll send it to you again.
No, you don't send it. I'm good. I got it. I just
thank you for sharing.
Yeah, I just want to know if Director Smith thought that was also a good idea for benevolence.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
We just want county residents.
Yeah,
as many county residents as we can get, and as diverse a group of county residents as we can get to answer it. So.
I even have more than the benevolence group. I'll try to do it. I mean, if you want, because we already know what 5% might even respond. You know. So anyway, okay, great, thanks.
You're welcome. That's all I have
Okay.
for today. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Smith. As always, pleasure to have a concise and direct report. Appreciate that. At this point in time, we don't have our Annapolis Human Relations Commission liaison on the call. So at this point in time, I'm just going to move to adjourn. We don't have to take a vote because we don't have a a working majority. There's one last question that I'd like to ask. Is it any value to meet in July, or should I point for August for us? That'll give us maybe some time to address some of these issues.
I'd recommend that if you don't have a July meeting, that the commissioners who are working on the strategic plan at least continue to touch base so that that continues moving.
I agree. Is that okay with you, Commissioner
Yeah.
Michaels?
Yes, I was finding that audio button there. Thank you, Director Smith. Yes, I think that's a great idea. I already had my vacation. I'll be working through July, so hello.
All right. Well, want to thank everybody, commissioners that attended our meeting, and also I'll be sending out a notice to everybody, all the commissioners, talking about the importance of our meetings, the fact that we're not having one in July. So I'm going to ask if there's any interest in a hybrid meeting in August, and we'll take it from there. So with that, want to thank everybody that's here. Again, great thanks to Delegate Bartlett for a great presentation. Great thanks to Commissioner Michaels for taking on this gargantuan task of trying to get a strategic plan going. Really appreciate that. And with that, I'll say we're adjourned.
Thank you, Director Smith. Thank you, Dr. Nikki, for all your work.
Recording stopped.
Bye. Have a
Bye,
great
everyone.
rest of your